Are you ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. It's July 19th, 2022. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Nice to see a semi-full house this morning. The first order of business are the minutes from 7/5. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes? Not all.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 5th.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Wright.
second
Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Vetch. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. Review and approval of agenda. Is there anything that needs to be added or removed?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Lyden, second by Commissioner Vetch to approve the agenda. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Consent agenda. Anything that anyone would like to remove for further discussion?
Madam Chair,
I think you were a half a hair a second, or half a second in front of Vetch, so Commissioner Ketchmark.
well, thank you. Just F as in Frank, one for brief discussion on out-of-state travel for training.
All right,
Madam Chair, so,
Commissioner Vetch.
I was just gonna, since I see our County Attorney Brian Lutz in the room, item D, I just wanted to get just two lines in there kind of contradict yourself, so I just wanted to get some clarification on that.
All right, Commissioner Wetter.
I wanted E1, just a little explanation on
B1,
E.
E1.
E is an egg,
All right,
one.
And Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lyden.
item A2, just for a time change.
A2.
All right. All right,
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with all of those items removed.
all right.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Ketchmark, seconded by Commissioner Lyden. More discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, well, let's just go in numerical order. We'll start with administration, A2. Commissioner Wetter? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm confused about who had what. You did.
You're confused, okay.
You're
Yeah,
fine.
just, normally personnel meets at 9 o'clock, and we have our first gravel mining at 9 o'clock on that day. So I just wanted to make sure that if we could change it to 10:30 for that particular day, that's all.
Yep, good call on that, because I just noticed I got that invite this morning to that 9 o'clock gravel meeting. I was like,
Yeah, I want to at least leave us an hour,
yeah.
15 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever. Thank you.
Should we do a motion on that, or is it okay administratively? Okay.
I'd probably just do them all at once.
Yeah.
Okay. D1, review of attorney's office forfeiture.
Madam Chair, I appreciate that the transparency, just like Tom Kelly before, bringing this forward, you don't have to, but I appreciate the transparency. I was just interested because in the top part, it says it's from DWI forfeitures, then in the bottom, it says none of the funds are from DWI forfeiture funds. It was, yeah,
clerical?
just kind of clerical, or,
Well, I prepared this myself, so no one to blame but myself. I took that as a means of, those are funds that are at my disposal for my own forfeiture funds, not necessarily county budgetary funds. So I meant it didn't impact the county because it's coming from my forfeiture fund. So that's just
Okay.
my mistake. First time I've done this before, so, yeah.
I was just, because I was figuring it was kind of like contradictory in each other. I was thinking just, so it basically has no impact to the levies, what that statement in the bottom should have said.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
My bad on that. Next
No,
time.
that's all
yeah.
good. I was-
So,
So just make that
Good
correction.
correction, okay. Just wanted to make sure that it was contradicting, so if anybody question on it. Thanks, Brian.
Sure, yep, no, you're welcome.
And I appreciate you, like you say, doing the transparency with it when you don't have to, just showing that you're being a good steward of those funds.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and just a real brief background, they changed the forfeiture law to make it more restrictive, but they also identified as part of our reporting requirement, they designated appropriate uses of the funds. So it kind of helped us in what we can spend the money on, because in the past it was a gray area.
And I think it's great that you're using the nonprofit of Wright County Frontline Outreach as one of those recipients of those funds.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, thank you.
Brian? All right. It was E1.
Yeah, that's the
Yep.
question. Is somebody here to answer? Anyways, it was an agreement amendment and for the public health emergency preparedness. And I was just curious if I'm ciphering this right. The grant was $406,701, and is that over a period of time so that you get the 108,984
Yes,
different years? Is that what it?
it is a 5-year grant, it looks like, and then they update the amendments every year on how much they can spend and update their budget plan for the year. So this is just amending year 4, it looks like.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that's it.
So I did figure it right. Thank
Does
you.
that answer your question? Okay.
Yep.
We're good? All right, F1, Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I spoke last week with Mr. Fomby. I had a couple other questions if Mr. Fomby's available. And good morning, Mr. Fomby, and thanks for getting me the information ahead of time on the request for out-of-state travel. And so it's noted that it's just a little over $5,000 for the one person to go to Nashville for the training for the week. I'm wondering if that person, when they return, if they can brief the board at a meeting after that about what benefits we can maybe implement here to help our cause.
If you'd like to.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. 5,000 is a pretty good number for one person to send. I know that typically it seems like we send 2 people, but one was gonna go, but now they're resigning, so we're left with 1 to send. And is this already booked?
I don't believe so. I think we're getting it approved now so that we could book.
Okay.
So,
Because I looked at it last week and late in the week, and it said that you'd save $600 by an early bird registration.
yes, that's for the event itself, not like the tickets.
Okay. But we would have saved if we'd have booked 600 off the conference price, the way it looked to me.
I don't know what the deadline is, but that's theoretically possible.
Yeah, so that came and went because today it's gone. So I don't know, it would have been nice to save the 600, but I guess the times didn't work out.
Well, it takes a long time to get it on the agenda, and then we got to wait for a board meeting, and then,
And we had a workshop last week.
it takes a few weeks.
Okay.
Well, if it goes away today, they can still.
We
get
could
it.
still do it today, theoretically.
I think the deadline was Friday, but feel free to call and explain the circumstances. This is our meeting schedule, and if you can save $600, why not? That's all I had.
All right.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the items A2 as modified, the clarification on D, and the clarification on E and F.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Ketchmark. More discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The rest of the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to our timed items, Mr. Virgil Hawkins, welcome.
Morning, Madam Chair and Board of Commissioners. Today, there's 3 highway items for your consideration. The first one is to requesting approval of and sign a purchase agreement to sell 5 lots to the city of St. Michael. And this is in conjunction with our Highway 19 project.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve and sign the purchase agreement to sell the 5 named lots.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Delyden. Any discussion? It's nice to be able to sell those. Hearing none other, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
motion
The
passes.
next item, request approval to sign a quick claim deed for transfer of land This is along Highway 37 in the city of Albertville. In your packet, you'll see there's a map. There's a very small triangle of land that's really not needed for highway right-of-way purposes. And there's a current development going on that it's just a small triangle piece that we could transfer over.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve and sign the quit claim deed for the transfer of lands in that small triangle piece of property in the city of Albertville.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Delyden. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. And resolution.
Okay, thank you. The last item is to approve resolution and MnDOT detour agreement for a detour that MnDOT wants to use our Highway 3 for a project they have next year on Highway 15 in Stearns and Meeker County. And this is a typical agreement for reimbursement for the use of our road when they use it for a detour.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution with MnDOT
I'll s-
agreement.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Delyden, seconded by Commissioner Ketchmark. All right, so another busy season, it looks like next year, huh?
Yes.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes.
Okay.
Thank you, Virgil.
Thank you.
Mr. Matt Detchen, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My first item is the approval from the county board to utilize buffer and riparian aid received from the state to purchase equipment in 2022. So a little background on that, we elected enforcement jurisdiction over the buffer law in 2018. That was done for multiple reasons. One, we did receive this state aid funding, but the second one was some more local control over the enforcement of that law. So per the board's guidance at the last budget meeting, we started a equipment committee where we sat down between Parks, Highway, Soil and Water, and the Division Ag and Drainage to see what kind of equipment could be utilized between all departments, not only from a cost saving standpoint, but from a time and materials. So we had some good meetings on that. We came up with these three items. One is a hydro mulcher. The second item is a Truax native seed drill. And the third is a Grubbit rake. So the total cost for all three of those pieces of equipment is $80,500. And I could go into more detail on any piece of equipment if you guys had questions specifically about one. So.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
how much did you actually get from the state for the buffers?
Yeah, so in 2018, it was $96,000 a year, 2 annual payments. And now it's down to $76,000 a year. So they have been dropping it recently. By the end of 2022, pending the purchase of this equipment, we would have $190,000 in that. So if we did purchase this, by the end of this year, we would have roughly $110,000 left. So we are looking to start up that equipment committee. Here soon again when things get less busy. Obviously, Virgil and his staff have quite a few things going on, but trying to do that and better utilize and share equipment between departments.
And do you have to describe those well, not here, but do you have to have a match?
No match for this. This is,
Okay.
It's aid. They do have me submit, once I've utilized all the funds for that calendar year, submit what I purchased on them. So I've purchased trucks, I purchased mowers and stuff like that with it. So I simply submit what was purchased and what the amount was. These items really fit very well within the buffer law because we'll be using a lot of these to seed buffers, especially on county ditches.
So do you have control over the money, or does the SWCD or who?
Yeah, this item is a line item in my budget now. That
Okay.
was decided
Oh,
on.
that's right,
board
it
meeting.
got
Yep.
transferred.
Yeah, so obviously we work in tandem though on a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
So the buffer enforcement is kind of my jurisdiction here at the county level, and then they're the inspection side of the Minnesota Statute 103F.
Thank you.
Madam
Madam-
Chair.
go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner Delyden.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for working with all the different
Right.
departments because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Instead of duplicating, utilizing what everybody can use, so that was great.
No, I thought it went great. You start obviously to try to figure out what the best cost savings is going to be, to reduce that. But there's also a lot of great equipment operators through all departments, and to be able to utilize those and get projects done quicker, especially with road projects, Virgil and them, when they go and reseed something, you want to get that quickly established or else you'll be getting calls. So I think that'll help.
That'll be great.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
And I'll second that in a statement.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Batch, and you have,
Madam Chair, so, Matt, have you guys had any conversations like with that hydro seeder and maybe, or Ross, with some of the other municipalities, and when it's sitting dormant, maybe some lease agreements with it, or?
Yeah.
Just because, we'll use it a lot, but not enough to be out 5 days a week, every week, so there might be some good cost savings to some of the municipalities for use on it.
Yeah, we had preliminary discussions about that. We really feel that right now, the Truax drill, so the other drill equipment, that would be used internally. A lot of other soil and water offices do rent out their drills to local landowners. We just don't know if there's a bang for the buck right now. We can definitely help people with projects doing the seeding, but the wear and tear on maintenance for something like that versus how much you get to rent one compared to other counties, it just didn't seem at that time. But yeah, the hydromulcher is something, you have to buy a tackifier agent and stuff like that to spread in the hydromulcher. So we'd have to figure that out with them where they're purchasing it and stuff like that. But that's something we can definitely look into, how that rental agreement would work too. So.
Great.
any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that is approved.
Awesome. All right, got
Number
a few grant applications here, so I'll just rattle through those. Permission to apply for the Lawns to Legumes Grant through the Board of Water and Soil Resources for 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the applying for the grant.
I'll second that, or,
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any discussion? Yeah, it looks
Madam
like a
Chair.
great program. Commissioner Wetter.
Again, do you have to describe those projects ahead of time?
Yeah, so
And is there a match?
this one is not a match. The biggest thing to figure out with that is how involved we're going to be with it. Not actually doing the seeding for these projects. We'd be more technical assistance for citizens who come and apply to do a pocket prairie or a stream bank restoration on their property. More technical assistance to reduce that staff time, but then this grant could help cover their seeding costs and potentially to hire someone to do the seeding in a larger plot. So yeah, there is no match for this grant. There is for item 4 and 7, which I'll cover those. They're both 25% matches. So.
And are these all competition grants or not?
Yeah. To be honest, number 6, that one's it's pretty easy. I'll definitely get it. I've gotten it every year. The application's a pretty easy process, and it's only $5,000. But yeah, most of these are a competitive grant process, so we are competing with other counties, soil and water districts for these funds. So.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that is approved.
All right.
Great.
I'll make a motion to approve the Conservation Partner Legacy Grant Program.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Delighten, seconded by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any discussion or on that? No? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Number 4.
I probably stole his thunder, so maybe I better let him speak for.
No.
before I approve.
I know, you thought he would talk after you made the motion.
Yeah, I thought he would, but
So number 4, permission to apply for the water quality and storage grant through the Board of Water and Soil Resources for 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve it, as long as he's already spoken.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Delighten, seconded by Commissioner Wetter. Any more discussion?
Again, do you have to describe what the project will be? Because it is the Bowser, so.
Yeah, this one's a lot more involved.
Yes.
You would have a project, some of the MDM grant, which is number 7, we can't use for water storage treatment ponds anymore. So this one would be that pot that we'd be looking for those type of projects. And yeah, you'd have to have engineering designs, preliminary designs, and cost estimates before you even apply for that.
So then you probably would use the SWCD.
Yeah, no,
Here.
good thing I got Candler on retainer. He's already has a really good draft of that potential project, so we can use that for the application process.
Okay, so you do have something in mind already.
And cost estimates, it's important to know before you go and apply, just generally how much earth you're moving and what it's gonna cost.
And then was this also a competition?
This is a very competitive one. It's relatively new as well. So the first round, they designated to a certain watershed area. Now they're opening it up for more areas to apply. So we'll see if we can get this one. There is a significant amount of money that we could potentially get out of it, though.
Good, thank you.
All right. If there's no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, that passes. Number 5.
All right, I'll keep going here. Permission to apply for the Protect Community Forests by Managing Ash for EAB grant. I do not like that name. Program through the Department of Natural Resources. EAB stands for Emerald Ash Borer.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Delyden, seconded by Commissioner Vetch. Are we getting a handle on our emerald ash borer?
Just starting up, there's a lot of cities kind of reaching out to us as staff for some assistance, and this would really help us getting these funds to help assist them as well.
Yeah, I know it's been going on for a number of years that cities will find something and what to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
All right.
Madam Chair, so Matt, are you the point person with the Emerald Ash Borer stuff in the Parks Department? I have good questions as well from some of the municipalities on who they can contact at the county that can help them with the questions. Are you the?
Yeah, honestly, I asked Ross that the other day. I'm like, do I have to go to you guys and kind of officially get appointed for that? But, I have taken on a lot of the EAB oversight, especially with this grant and a potential intern in 2023.
Oh, nice.
Very good.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Number 6.
All right. Permission to apply for the noxious and invasive plant grant through the Minnesota Department of Agriculture for 2023.
And that is not a competitive grant.
I'd like to take more credit, but it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve to apply for the noxious and invasive plant grant.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any other questions?
Yeah, you're not planning noxious in an invasive.
Hey, job security. Planning it. No, this one will be about caps at about 5,000. I've gotten the 5,000 about every year, so helps with especially Phragmites, which is one that we've been targeting, but some other noxious weed, parsnip, stuff like that, where we can assist township cities as well for some funding for treatments. So.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
how is wild parsnip doing? Is there still a lot out there or not?
Finding more, there's a lot of areas, and I just want to highlight it, not to pat them on the back too much, but our highway department does a great job with parsnip. So we are finding some other areas outside of that we need to start, being more aggressive with, especially with something like that. You mow at the wrong time of year. We're usually mowing right when parsnip is flowering, and we're spreading it more. So we're really trying to get that, and that involves education as well, not just the treatment. So timings of when things are flowering.
Madam Chair, so since you're at your hand here, did we end up doing some of the township training to some of the maintenance staff to the townships about the noxious weeds to get better reports on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was great turnout. A lot of people did a great job. We even had MnDOT there. So we were talking a lot of the areas within Wright County. And yeah, I thought it went really well. And we're continuing to kind of push on that. And that goes for education on a lot of things, EAB, noxious weeds, really trying to hammer that in, get as much help as we can.
How do they handle it along the railroad
That's what I was
tracks?
just gonna say, railroads. Not so much.
Yeah, I know BNSF, they do hire a company to do their spraying and management. I think we can all agree that railroads are a hot button, area for noxious weeds. So trying to improve that, not trying to be enemies, but to work together to try to solve a problem, because you get a corridor like that, that can spread out pretty quickly to other areas.
All right, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it is approved.
All right, last one. Wow. Permission to apply for the multi-purpose drainage management grant to the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources for 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Lyden, seconded by Commissioner Wetter.
And is this one that you said was a 25% matching?
It is, yeah. So we recently got one for $210,000 for this year. That project that's going on, the local match is our project funds that you give us, $33,000 a year. So we built that up with a little bit of ARP sprinkled in there to match it. So there will be no cost to the benefit of landowners for that project.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
That will make them happy.
Yeah, no, that's we're hoping to do more of that.
All right, any questions or comments? No. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah,
for-
thank you.
Yeah. All right. Lindsay Meyer.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Maybe 2 weeks ago, I brought forward a request to approve ballot board members. That was the first round of temporary staff that we had hired along with all of the staff in the Taxpayer Services Office. These are the remaining 3 individuals that have cleared background check for county employment.
I'll make a motion to approve the absentee ballot board.
All right.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Lyden, seconded by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
what's UOCAVA?
That is basically your overseas military members or other overseas citizens who, this is actually a federal voting act, but it allows overseas citizens to vote absentee.
Do you know what that stands for, the UO CABA or whatever? CAVA?
Uniform and Overseas Citizen Absentee Voting Act.
Thanks.
Oh,
I looked that up earlier today.
thank you. Both of you.
It's one of those. It's one of those that in like 2 years from now you'll forget what it is again. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'll forget sooner than that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay. All right.
I don't think we voted on it.
We did not,
I can,
you made a motion, he made the second, but we did not vote on it. So
okay, so,
Any any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that is approved. Morning, Heather.
Morning. Some paperwork.
Thanks, Heather.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. Today I'm here asking for authorization to publish the 2021 financial statements and vendor lists in the official county paper. And also Kristen from CLA is here to give you a summary of the audit.
Welcome, Kristen.
Thanks. Morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Like Heather said, I'm Kristen Hool. I'm from CLA. I'm the signer on your audit. So Heather just passed out the PowerPoint. It's on
there too.
Okay. So today we're just going to go over a brief introduction, required communications, internal control, single audit, Minnesota legal compliance, and then finish off with the financial results. Eric Smedsrud was my in-charge. Like I said, I'm the signer on the audit, and then we had a team of staff.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do we have this so we can put it up there?
It's at the end of the packet. It is.
It is. It's
That's a, just gonna
It'd
say.
just make it easier for,
on page 105.
not to stop you, but it just,
Nope, that's
as long as you're
fine.
talking, it'd be easier for those that do
People are
watch
looking
it.
at the
Yes,
screen.
and there's a lot of graphs in the back.
Yeah, and for people to watch it later.
It's right behind the item.
Thank you,
Okay.
Frank.
So on page 3, I'm gonna flip to that. Okay, it's right here. Required communications. Audit standards do require us to communicate certain items to governance, and that is in this 5-page letter that you, I think Heather just handed out. It's very boilerplate. It goes over things such as calling out if there's any new government accounting standards board standards in the current year. There was not this year, so it was a quiet year, luckily. Next year, there is a big one coming with GASB 87 leases. It also notes the accounting estimates that go into the audit, things such as depreciation on your fixed assets, allowance for doubtful accounts, compensated absences, things like that. Talks about that there were no difficulties in performing the audit, goes over any uncorrected misstatements, so things that are below a certain threshold do not have to be corrected, calls those out. It also calls out that there were no disagreements with management, and then goes over other findings or issues. So there were new accounting standards or auditing standards this year that required us to call out any risks that we have in the audit that we look more into and do further testing on. One of them, which is construction in progress. We always look very detailed at that, do a lot of testing. It's a riskier area in our opinion. We do that for all counties because there's a lot of big dollar amounts going through there. So in the future, you'll see that called out in the engagement letter. Since the new auditing standards were so new, it was not in there back in November. So that's just called out here. Okay. And then the other thing to note is that you were given an unmodified or clean opinion. So that is the best you can get. So good job on that. On page 4, this starts going over internal controls. So we are required to look at the controls in place by the county and assess that they're working properly. So there's 2 types of deficiencies that we can, or that we have to disclose in the audit in writing. The first type is material weakness, and then I'll go over the next one shortly. So material weakness is just the more severe of the 2. It's that a material misstatement could happen and not be prevented or detected on a timely basis. So as part of this, there was just one. There were a couple adjustments to the financial statements after we had received them, one to capital assets and one to accrued interest receivable and interest income. And that is, we had that finding as well last year. So on page 5, this is the other type of internal control deficiency that we have to note. So these are called significant deficiencies, and they are not material in nature, yet important enough to still put in writing and merit the attention of governance, and there were none this year, and that was the same as last year. So good job there. On the next page, this is about the single audit. So since you spend more than $750,000 of federal expenditures, you are required to have a single audit. We're required to test 40% of your federal expenditures each year. And this year, the 2 programs we tested were ARPA, or the real name is COVID-19 Corona State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. You started spending enough of that in 21 that we tested that, as well as child support. No deficiencies were noted, so great job there. ARPA is definitely new to the county, so great job on that. We did resolve, we had a couple TANF deficiencies last year. We didn't test it, but we still have to follow up to resolve those, so those were resolved. Okay. And then the last bucket is on the next page, Minnesota legal compliance. So the state auditor's office has about a 25-page checklist that they require us to go through and test all the statutes in there. There's statutes around claims and disbursements, debt, contracting and bidding, if you had any TIF districts, which you don't, and just miscellaneous things. So we performed that, and there was one item noted, and that was timely payment of claims. So as a county, you're required to pay all claims within 35 days. And there was one noted, we tested 40, we select a sample, and there was one noted in there that was not paid within that. And it was in the Human Service Fund. And last year, we did resolve, there was the annual EFT delegation. That was resolved and is coming to the board yearly now. Any questions on those? Okay. So next we'll go into the financial results. So if you want to go up a couple pages to the first graph. So this graph is months of expenditures and governmental fund balances. So what this means is how many months can the county operate if you had no revenue coming in based on your fund balance levels. And this is fund balance across the county, and it's the unassigned and assigned. So not restricted, not non-spendable. So really the liquid money that you have. So you'll see it is trending upward in the last couple years, which is a great sign. The state auditor's office does recommend no less than 3 to 5 months, just because of how your tax payments are, or your settlements are coming in, your collections. And so there's that gap in there that you don't have significant revenue coming in. So that's why they give that 3 to 5 month window. Okay. So on the next page, on page 10, this is just a chart that shows overall your revenues and expenditures and how they've been trending the last 5 years. You will see this is the 5th year in a row that your expenditures have exceeded revenues. This is only revenues and expenditures. It's not other financing sources. So when you took out debt, that would go below the line of these. So that's why you are seeing the actual expenditures exceeding, because you've had a lot of capital projects that you've issued debt for. And then we'll go over more of the details, what makes up these decreases from last year in the next couple slides. So if you go to page 11, this shows your revenue sources. So you'll see taxes is by far your biggest source of revenue, followed by intergovernmental, and then charges for services. You'll see your taxes have been going up steadily over the last 5 years, just because you're increasing the levy. Intergovernmental did spike up last year. So you had CARES, or the Corona Relief Funds, last year. This year you had some ARPA money spent. So only the ARPA money you spent is in revenue. The rest is sitting in unearned. Plus you got the second payment now in 22. So that's why there's a really big difference there. You are getting ARPA money, but it's not necessarily reflected in here. Only the spent money. Also, last year you had a really big federal highway money coming in, 20.205, as well as a lot of local road and bridge money that came in. So that was the difference there. You'll see your charges for services did spike up some. This was due to sheriff contracts going up, foreclosure sales, and then you did have more inmates in the jail from other counties that just didn't have the staffing. Another big thing to note, it doesn't really show it up on the bar graph, but below, your interest or investment earnings did drastically go down just because of the market at 12/31.
So was there the loss of the investment from bond revenues? Was that included? Before we had, because you invest the money as you spend it, so that would have increased it artificially for the last 3 to 4 years as we were doing the construction projects. So I'm assuming that funds were no longer invested. That would also be an indicator, or is that separately?
The mark-to-market adjustment at the end of the year, what our investments were actually valued at 12/31 is what caused the decrease
Okay.
versus what our book value is.
Okay.
And then the last thing to note here, miscellaneous, you'll see did go up some, about 600,000, and that was the Trailblazer tax abatement. So those were the big fluctuations that I noted. And then the next page here are your expenditures. So you'll see general government, public safety, highways and streets, human services, capital outlay are all pretty high on the graph. Your highways and streets did go down about 7 million. This is because you didn't get as much intergovernmental revenue. So you didn't have the local funding, the federal funding like you did last year. So last year had a lot of projects. So this year projects went down. And that always ebbs and flows like that. Conservation of natural resources, that was an expenditure class that did spike up. You had a lot of professional services for County Road Ditch, or County Ditch 10 for that. And then lastly, you'll see your capital outlay is down about 19 million. So last year, or in 2020, you had the Justice Center and FBI Training Center. That was about 33 million. Those are down this year because they were completed or near completed, and then the government center had more expenditures, so they kind of offset, but it was still down. So on the next page, now we're gonna get into some of the major funds that just how they look individually. So if you go to page 13, so you'll see in the general fund, revenues did go down. So although your taxes did go up 3.6 million because of the increased levy, your intergovernmental revenue did go down because of less ARPA versus CARES, and then the interest income also went down because of the mark to market. But your expenditures did hold steady. In the road and bridge fund, you will see you are down about 7.5 million in revenues, 7 million in expenditures. And once again, this is just less road projects, less funding for it. And this one you'll see just goes up and down depending on the funding sources you're getting each year. Human services, you will see that expenditures and revenues are both up quite a bit from last year. Taxes went up about 1.3 million due to the increased levy. And then another thing to note is charges for services did go up about 200,000, mainly due to the increases in vaccination clinics. And then expenditures went up, you'll see at the bottom here, about 800,000. And this is just due to increased payroll, COLA, steps. There were about 8 new positions added. So that is why that trended upwards. Any questions so far on those funds?
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Commissioner Witter.
from the road and bridge fund revenues and expenditures, 2021, does that include the 0.5% sales tax? Or not,
Yes.
as a
It's
revenue?
in that fund, right? Yeah,
It does,
it is in
okay.
there. Yep.
Okay. Just curious, thank you.
So on page 16 now, this shows your indebtedness. So you'll see the top, like dark blue line is your GO bonds. So that spiked up in 19 because of the issuances and debt, and now they're starting to be paid down. So they're slowly coming down. The loans is the City of Albertville loan. Septic loans did go up a little. OPEB and the net pension asset and liability, that is driven off of actuarial valuations. So those are out of the county's control. So you hire an actuary every year to calculate your other post-employment benefits. So that's OPEB, and that's at 4.4 million. And then the net pension asset and liability, that comes from PARA. So that is for the net pension liability, that's the unfunded share for all of your employees, what you would, if the state closed their doors or PARA closed their doors as of 12/31, what you would owe. And that's about 30 million. This year you see there's that net pension asset. So corrections actually is now overfunded. So there's an asset on the books, and that's being seen across all the counties this year. And then compensated absences, that went up slightly. That is just the vacation time that people have accrued that they are owed. If they had left at 12/31, what they would have been paid out. Okay. So then just to wrap it up, your deadline to the GFOA is June 30th. That was submitted on time to them. I'd like to think it wasn't as too stressful. It was submitted with days to spare.
No,
It's always stressful, but
It's always stressful.
it's better than on June 30. Like I said, your bonded debt did decrease about 7 million this year. And then there was about a 39 million increase in your net book value of your capital assets, just because of all the construction, the infrastructure and buildings that have been going on. So that's in capital assets now. Any questions?
Any questions?
No, great job.
Yeah, it's, always appreciate
Yes,
your wonderful reports, so, and,
it's great working with everyone.
and, you know, the job that our team does here is to be commended year after year, so, thank you.
Would not be pulled out off without Heather and her team.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I get a motion to get it
Yep, a
approved?
motion to approve this
Madam
to be.
Chair, I'll make a motion to accept or authorize to publish the 2021 summary from the audit from Clifton Larson Allen.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Delyden. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Moving on, the county board workshop from last week. I'll just kind of briefly highlight the discussions or the topics that we had. There was, all commissioners were present, along with our county administrator and our assistant administrators, a number of staff. There is one question on the second line of staff. It says Pete, but there's no last name. If we could just clarify who that is. And we also had some guests. So the first item was just to schedule items or meetings as needed, and we had to get someone else to fill in for a personnel meeting, which Commissioner Delyden took care of. And the second item, we welcomed Barbara Chafee, the CEO of Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, for her annual report, and she brought staff with. And they talked about they had another clean audit by Clifton Larson and Allen, and there was some highlights on some of the programs that they are run, and for youth and adults and dislocated workers, so that was always good to hear from them. There is the last paragraph on that page 2 before ERP. It says that they talked about KRWC AM's 1360s Tim Ziploy, and it's actually Tim Ziploy works for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, but has a program on KRWC on Monday mornings. Just to clarify that he's not part of KRWC. And ERP update. Administrator Kelly went through some background on it, and he said that phase 1 is set to go live on Monday, November 2nd, and is on pace to meet that deadline, and also begin working on implementation on phase 2 in 2023. And the phase 2 is going to include human capital management, payroll budget, and it will eliminate some potential errors to the automated process. So that's going along. It's been a long process, and when we finally realize the benefits of it, it'll be worth all the effort that we've gone through on that. And then we moved on to discussion on the compost facility. And we've been working on this for a while now, and we had a consultant bring us some options of what we could do with the current facility. Option 1 was new building addition on north end of hangar building. Option 2 was to enclose a portion of the hangar building. Option 3 is new household hazardous waste building on a to be determined site. Option 4, existing operations with minimal improvements. So we have lots more discussion, and we've asked staff to get some more information about costs and size and looking at what other counties are doing, that kind of thing. So there is extensive minutes on these. People can read about it and kind of digest. And there is one correction I have on page 7 of 9, and that was in the 4th paragraph, where it said, Hewsome said the building should be left in place and not demolished. I don't know what I said, but I didn't say that. I would say that I'm not opposed to having the building be demolished.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I had a correction also, if this is the right time for that.
Yeah,
correct?
anytime.
So on page 7 and 9, I talked to Barry to confirm that what my understanding was, but second paragraph down, we're talking about what would have to happen for the campus property to be used. And it says Reinberger said the area would need to change its zoning and it was not practical. That was referenced earlier about the existing compost facility, not the campus property, so that can be stricken, that line.
Okay.
Doesn't apply there.
Yeah, and Houston said the building should be left in place and not demolished. That can also be stricken, because I know I didn't say that. I might have said something that sounded like that, but I'm
Madam Chair.
looking at, yes, Commissioner Witter.
The same page, 7. Third line, it doesn't make sense. Wetter asked with so many acres the county would be able to use. I guess to explain it a little bit better, I think I said something to the effect that Wetter asked, since so many acres were owned by the county, would there be a suitable site there to use?
All right. Anyone else have any corrections or comments so far?
Did you
Madam
get to
Chair.
the recommendations yet?
Yeah, we have not got to the recommendation yet.
All right.
Just a comment, I would move to separate the other recommendations from the compost one, because I'm gonna be no on that one, but I would vote for the others.
There's only one other recommendation, I do believe.
It's just the signage.
I think so.
Great, yeah. So we just have the two recommendations.
Madam Chair, just for
Yeah.
discussion with Commissioner Catchmark.
Yep.
So the recommendation was just to bring forward with a financial model. Are you just opposed to just wanting, are you more in favor of just leaving it as is for a period of time? Just curious.
Thank you, and Madam Chair, so I still think it's most practical to go with 3 of building a new facility on, for example, the campus site here, just sticking with that option 3. And it looks like the recommendation was to explore a combination of 1 and 3. And I would be in favor to abandon and sell the existing property and build new on the other site.
Okay, I was assuming that's was, because you had talked about it there, but I didn't.
All right.
Yep, so I wanted to make sure I was understanding your position on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I
Madam
mean,
Chair, and I think Matthijs has something to add to the conversation.
there was, that is to create a financial plan. That was what the recommendation was but.
Madam Chair,
Assistant
members of the board,
Administrator.
just,
Thanks.
you talk about a financial model. We have looked at updating the CIP request based on some of the numbers Santec gave us. Is that the financial model you're speaking of?
That would be the.
Okay, I wanna make
Well,
sure
and I
that-
think they wanted to have a better
Right.
delineation of what the cost for demolition would be.
Yes.
And then to figure out what a structure would be from a CIP, whether it could be fit within the current CIP structure over 1 or 2 year period of time.
Right.
Yep,
And
and then to figure out actual costs, I guess, getting it at better costs based on the flow that we would want on the site.
Okay, just wanted to clarify, that's, we have updated the CIP request and that, all that type of information has been developed.
Okay.
So,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Witter?
Also in that recommendation, I was wondering whether it shouldn't be added about the staff gathering more information from Stearns County on what their size is and actually what they do at their compost plant.
And that actually is in the minutes as,
I know it's in the minutes,
Recommendations, so,
but I was
yeah,
wondering
so
whether it should be in the recommendation.
yeah, I'm open to that, because we had direct staff to explore,
Like the building size and that.
Because I believe they came with about 20,000 square feet in Stearns County, and Stantec gave us like a 12, 13,000
Yep.
estimate. So I think it's more the fact is that suitable size, or is 20,000 really the more actual size that would be
Yeah.
necessary?
Correct. Stearns County's is about 20,000 square feet. We are looking at late summer here, maybe doing a best practices tour. We're gonna look at some different facilities and invite county commissioners to attend that with us. Go up to Stearns County. Douglas County has a pretty decent one. We're gonna look at different counties around what their operations are, and then maybe develop a tour date to go look at best practices, so you can see other facilities and how they operate and what needs we might have here in Wright County.
And
I'll just stay here for a while.
I think that it would be accurate to add that we asked staff to explore or look at other facilities for space options. But-
For size, yes.
So, Madam Chair, and just for Commissioner Catchmark, I mean, I think and I think right now we're just trying to get an idea of what the costs are and a lot of the stuff, but I mean, if you're not in favor of doing, getting even better cost estimates or even better flow side of it, I respect that.
Thank you.
Mr. Ketchmark, or Commissioner Ketchmark, you were thinking more in terms of you're interested in moving it to this campus. So
Right.
that's why you're opposed to where it is?
Right.
Okay,
So,
recommendation.
I mean, but I am in favor of the second part of the recommendation, which, and this is kind of a loaded deal with a couple things, but marketing the scale and the loose iron out there. But I don't want to get lumped into saying that I think option 1 and 3 is the best, if that's what we're voting on. If we're voting on more of still a research part of it, then that's different. If we're doing a final vote per se, that we're going to stick with 1 and 3.
And my understanding, my recollection is that we're trying to gather information. So based on, those combination, we're not making any decisions yet. We need the information before we can make a good decision,
But I think, and I'll be for total transparency, I think the direction was more for them to find out what the cost would be on the existing site.
Right.
Are gonna be more the numbers that are gonna be driven to that versus cost of building it on a subsequent site. Because they're going to build in the demo cost and so forth, and the best utilization of septic well and things like that, that if we went to a subsequent site, that we're not gonna be factoring those costs in because we're looking at using the current site. I believe that's what staff has been putting it together. You haven't been looking at creating a cost estimate on building on a third-party site.
From what our understanding from the recommendation was, which is being approved today, obviously, it was to look at the existing site for a new facility with demo, grading, site improvements, and those types of things. Update the CIP with financial impacts, which will go before the board on August 29th. For those types of activities, and staff reviews almost complete on that, and then develop this best practices thing, I think is a good idea. And then to do a kind of a site plan of how that building would fit within the existing site. If you'd like us to expand that to a new site and what that would take, but I know Commissioner Ketchmark was more for a new site, where it seemed like the other 4 were recommending to go to the existing site. So
Madam
taking
Chair.
direction from the majority.
That is correct. I guess we could,
If you
find
want
that
to-
out, but that's correct. Some of us had concerns about moving it to this campus. I mean, it would create a whole new facility, then you have to get new well and septic and everything else, but anyway.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And I appreciate that. I think there'll be another opportunity to vote on the plan after we get more
Correct.
numbers.
Right.
One question that comes up, can we use in-house expertise to come up with the numbers, or is there gonna be a professional services group that's gonna be tasked with coming up with all the figures for the different options?
We have felt like Santec provided us enough information on cost estimates that we can use some of their numbers and some of their information to make educated assumptions for you internally.
And if we use like a Stearns County construction and then just add inflationary costs, I think that could give us a good indication too from a construction piece.
So we're looking at some of that type of stuff.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up, and
The only thing we thought about, Commissioner Ketchmark, is if we wanted to give you guys a very good picture of a site plan out there, is having somebody give you none of us are artists. Give you a rendering, which
You're
would
actually
cost.
pretty good.
But if we'd want to do a rendering or not, that's something we haven't decided if that's something you'd want of the site, so you could see a nice rendering of what a new site would look like.
so Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm good with it as it is, as long as that scale and the potential marketing of the iron stays in there too.
Yep.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All right.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ketchmark, so when we were talking to staff and the term iron came up, I anticipated you mean iron meaning equipment, not just random steel laying on the outside. Am I correct with your terminology?
Well, I thought the understanding was loose, unattached iron
Yes.
in the form of galvanized that's under the hanger, and that Attorney Kreiser called that one a zook, I think.
So that's a piece of equipment.
Okay,
So
so to
that-
me, it's loose iron that's not
So
operable anymore.
it's equipment and those types of things. So your terminology, I understood you.
Okay,
So
think
anything
of-
we can get rid of, get rid of.
Anything that somebody's
And-
willing to buy.
yeah.
It's not 5 T-posts laying in the corner. It's stuff we can get rid of, equipment, things like that.
Marketable things that aren't attached,
Yeah.
because Tim was on board with, we probably don't want people taking torches and cutting things off that are sticking out of the building.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
So
But anyhow, Madam Chair, Commissioner Ketchmark, today's Tuesday, right? Yep. County Board's on Tuesday. I'll remember that someday. Tomorrow morning, we have departments meeting us out there to tag their equipment to make sure that they're proper. Anything that's not tagged after tomorrow morning, we'll be looking to put up on public sale.
Okay,
All right, good.
thank you.
All right,
you.
moving on to number 5. We did have a long workshop last week. Campus signage, there's, it's new campus, and people can kind of get easily lost, and they often are. A lot of people stop at the highway building first, and they're driving over the curbs and different things here, so we're looking to improve things, and we had a lot of discussion. So, I'm missing. Oh. So, after a lot of discussion, our recommendation was to have the county add numbers to the canopy of the Government Center and Justice Center, to put a sidewalk from the southeast of the Government Center to go diagonal to the Justice Center, to have signage for the delivery locations be looked at, to have flat concrete pads at entryways to the government campus and along curb lines be put in place. So that was all good recommendations. And then the last one, we reviewed the Department of Corrections contract for housing of their work release inmates, and Jail Captain O'Malley came and answered some questions. So we are housing some Department of Correction inmates, and when they go out on work release, they are, the Department of Correction does pay for that, for their boarding. And I did have one question about the Jill Nettlestead, yeah, is the one that's running the human services programs. And so is Jill Pooler, does Jill Pooler kind of oversee the social workers in the jail program that Jill Nettlestead is doing? Okay, because we have 2 Jills, and Jill Pooler is listed as the one, so I want to clarify that. All right, and so that was just informational, and we adjourned our workshop at 11:20. But if is there any other corrections to the minutes or the recommendations? Otherwise, I would.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the recommendation, with changes in the minutes and the recommendations.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Delight. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wetter. More discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, they are approved. And personnel, Commissioner Fetch.
So last week, just a quick overview. On the 13th, Commissioner Wetter and myself, we had a new position request from the county attorney's office about a assistant civil division chief. This is largely a budget neutral piece to it, and when I say largely, it won't impact this year's budget, but it could have an increased cost potentially of maybe less than $5,000. There'll be with it, their recommendations would be to review new position of assistant chief and county attorney's office reorganization and reclassification with the exemption of policy 205. And if those of you that aren't aware with policy 205, it has to be if you're in a reclassification, if you go up, there's a percentage piece that you get the increase, but there's an understanding that some of the people within the position, if that was the case, they would just take the new range, but they wouldn't take the percentage increase. So largely, which would keep the positions budgetary neutral. There would only be one position that would, the new position, which would be applied for, that one would be the only one that would actually have a percentage increase in wage with new duties. With that, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations from the Personnel Committee on July 13th.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. All right, administration. The reclassification of positions, Administrator Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try to speak up a little bit. Had a discussion with Mr. Ketchmark regarding our process for classification of positions. Felt that he would like to have discussion at either an upcoming meeting regarding that. I turn it over to you then, Mr. Ketchmark.
Yes, if you want to discuss it here or another, it's kind of a good timing because of the recent personnel deal, and I'm not going to go after that to try and reverse it, but I'm going to point out a point or two in that. But I guess I'd like this addressed at least before another one comes forward and starts in the process. But it's not an emergency today. It's Madam Chair, it's up to you.
Yeah, if you want to have a committee of the whole, just to sit down and talk about processes and how we've got to the point that we're at this point, that's.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And the bottom line will be a request basically for the board to get more information up front rather than at the end. And I guess I'll ask one question here today is the $200 to $300 that we pay Baker Tilly to do a classification, who gets billed that? Is that admin or the department or office that's requesting the reclass?
That bill comes to administration. It's paid out of 100, which is the general line, 16261 professional services. So it's not billed back to departments.
But typically they're initiated by a certain office or department, right?
Usually, it depends on what the situation is.
Okay, well, that'll be part of discussion is who's initiating maybe should be coming out of their budget potentially than just, shoving it toward 100 and say, here you go. And it's not a lot of money, but it is potentially a lot of good information, I think, for the board to have at the right time before we vote to do the reclass. Because there's been some surprises here lately with some of the figures coming back and some of the process, in my opinion. But
And I mean, I think there's some good information from an educational standpoint that with Minnesota and pay equity laws and with the fact that pay equity laws require that really it's a non-biased person that's looking at what are the credential and experiences that's required for that job to determine what the compensation is. Now, that aside, you have the discussion of, do I want that position or not? Is it because if it's a pay grade 15, I wouldn't want that position, but if it was a 12, I would? Then we have to ask ourselves, we still can't have them do that work of a 15. So you really have to ask yourself, if you're reclassifying something, is because you're asking them to do X. And with pay equity laws, if you're asking them to do X, you have to pay them X. Now, if you're going with it in the route of saying, I don't like X because X is a pay grade 15 and that's too much, I would be okay if it was a 12. Well, you'd be breaking your pay equity law if you say, okay, I'm not going to give that, I'm not going to have that position created. Even though they're doing it, we're going to leave them at a 12. We're not going to reclassify them. Then you have them working out of class. So, and those are the stuff that you have to be very careful of. So a lot of times, because job scopes change, and when job scopes change largely, we're in the position to keep ourselves compliant, to have them reviewed or reclassified. And to be able to meet pay equity laws, you use a third-party firm so it doesn't look biased, and hence where Baker Tilly comes in. So.
Madam Chair?
Yeah,
Because we could go down the rabbit hole real quick on this one. I would recommend we put it on our workshop for August. And if the workshop gets to be too busy, then we do it at a committee of the whole at that point.
Yeah.
We can change it.
You know, the way that we have our committee set up, I mean, we have a personnel and employee relations committee that they're the two that vet this. If we would change it, then it would really become, if we had anything else come up, it would become a committee of the whole. So that's just something to think about before the workshop, but anyway.
And
good?
to Commissioner Ketchmark's piece, and I respect that I find pay equity laws in Minnesota to be challenging at best.
Yeah.
And so I think having the more education you have with it, and having to work within those confines and to prevent ourselves from getting litigated, and if nothing else, maybe I'll give you some more education. We can all go down to St. Paul and maybe we can get some pay equity law changes, you know?
And Madam Chair, and I appreciate the feedback. I guess I want to see if there's some separation between the pay equity laws and our policy and procedure per se about the position itself, if it should be offered to other people, if it's so many grades above. Now, there's a comment this week on this last personnel decision from Human Resources Director that typically, the county like to have 2 pay grades in between supervisor and staff for progression and supervision purposes. That's an interesting comment because I know that there are some cases that that's not happening. So do we open the door for those that go through org charts and say, here's one, here's one, here's one, where there's not 2 in between, that we're going to come up for an item to discuss?
So, and this is where, so
Again,
would like from.
Madam Chair, like I said, we can run down the rabbit hole on this
Okay,
one. I would just rather, so that we have some of our experts in the room that can help decipher some of these, I'd just rather wait and have that discussion.
And I think that's great. I'll go for that date. Yep.
So I'll make a motion to move this to the workshop in August. And if the workshop gets too crazy, then at that day, we can change it to a committee of the whole.
Motion made by Commissioner Delyden. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Or you can give
By
a mic either way.
Commissioner Ketchmark. All in favor?
Aye.
That is approved. And then a letter of support for South Haven border-to-border broadband grant, and
Yeah, I'll make a motion to support, to send a letter of support for the South Haven border-to-border broadband.
all right,
And then remove this charter spectrum piece.
pardon? Second.
In removing the charter spectrum out of their letter.
It was.
Oh, the updated one, I'm just
updated.
clicked on now.
Yeah,
It still shows it in there, but,
It showed up in our, we got an email on it.
oh, it did, okay. On the agenda, when I clicked on it, just.
And thank you, though. Make sure that that's taken care of.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
that should get changed on the website.
Did you second?
Yeah.
Second by Commissioner Vetch. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That is approved, and they will be very happy with our support. All right, moving on to Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates. Commissioner Wetter, would you like to start?
Okay, first of all, I went to the Mississippi St. Cloud One Watershed, One Plan. We interviewed 2 engineering consultants to groups to do the plan, and we settled and recommended ISG to be the consultant. AIS, we had an update on the lake inspection numbers, and we're still waiting from the DNR on CD3 okays for Cedar and Sugar Lakes. Pleasant Lake is installed. And Sylvia is still under construction. They're constructing the whole area where you come in onto the lake. SWCD, we okayed the budget and paid many producers for on their bills for their projects. And I attended the District 1 County Commissioner Forum because my Wright County Community Action meeting was canceled for July. And all three candidates were there and they answered the public's questions. The township officers quarterly meeting was in Silver Creek with a dinner, and were we all there?
Commissioner Lyden was out of
Oh,
state.
yeah, that's right, he was in DC. So that was quite interesting too, and so we heard updates from all the department heads and such. My historical society meeting was canceled because it would be tomorrow, the day of the fair, at the start of the fair. And I will be at the county fair in a booth Wednesday and Saturday. Thursday, I'll be in Annandale for all county commissioner candidate forum, and that's the end of my report.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Vetch.
So a couple, it's almost 2 weeks back now, our most recent energy transition meeting. We went through the complex formula for LGA, local government aid to municipalities. Quite interesting, and all the different ins and outs as to how those funds are come up with and all the things that can increase them or dilute them. And then we also went through the far less complex formula for county program aid, and how that comes into it, and how closures or non-closures of power plants would be affected with those two funding sources, as well as we talked about the amazing amount of tax infrastructure that these facilities pay, from personal tax to property tax to production tax to the corporate tax. There was a lot of different tax structures to it. Hopefully here at a future date, I can kind of bring some of the slides to share with the group at some point, because I think it's very insightful to understand kind of the complexities of those entities and how they affect our community as well as that of the other surrounding communities across the state. In addition, I agree, Commissioner Wetter, was a well-attended township officers meeting. Some interesting conversation at the end, but I'll leave it at that. Other than that, I
always
appreciate Virgil coming out and making a good discussion for the group as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I was at all these events also, but also there is one more thing on the AIS Advisory Committee, Commissioner Wetter, that they're doing that Starry Trek on August 20th. So anyone that's interested in going to help look for Starry Stonewort, that's going to be at Clearwater Pleasant Park, I believe is where they can start. And so Safe Communities of Wright County met, and we have the Heroes Day coming up, or not we, but we're going to be participating also, mentorship, education, drug awareness. We'll have a booth there too, but local Heroes Day in Monticello on August 18th, 19th, and 20th. And I mean, just it's fabulous to really honor all of our first responders and sheriff's office. So go check on that. The Safe Communities is celebrating their 25th anniversary this year, so that's pretty cool. And lots of campaigns going out. There's a Rural Road Safety Week campaign, July 18th through the 22nd. Speed Prevention Campaign, July 20th through the 14th. Impaired Driving National Enforcement Media Campaign, August 17th through the 5th. And we can, we'll be at the All Safe Schools meeting also. So there's the Cook It or Ticket campaign was pretty busy, May 23rd through June 5th. And our executive director is out doing classes, the Right Roads and the Right Road for Teens, parent-teen presentation, and the crash car has been at different locations too. So lots going on. We write letters to the editor every month and try to work on all we can do for traffic safety. That's about it. Wright, you had a busy week, huh?
Yeah, I was out in Washington DC meeting with some of our federal legislators and senators, and also with the federal DOT, and it looks very promising to get the additional funding for the I-94 between Albertville and Monticello, that last section. And we have, everybody we met with, very positive push to the federal DOT. Some of the things that we talked to them about is with their concerns, with pollution and that sort of stuff, with all the time it takes for people to move, pollution increases. They want transit, can't do transit without additional lane space because no transit bus is gonna wanna sit in traffic either. It doesn't benefit anybody, so. I thought it would, no, overall, it was very good.
Thank you for going. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, Madam Chair. Well, two things, and the county fair's already been mentioned, so just to review the dates is tomorrow till July 24th, Sunday. So Wednesday to Sunday, if people get a chance to go out there, hopefully they have a good turnout and good weather. The other thing I was at was the Highway 12 Coalition, and a lot of times we hear a lot of the attention to Highway 12 is east side of the county and going into Hennep, and I had opportunity to talk to the MnDOT liaison for this area, and drew his attention to a spot on Highway 12 in the area of Montrose that's very bumpy for the last couple of years, and you especially notice it if you drag a trailer over it. And personal experience, I had an axle actually break on a trailer I was dragging through there, so I know from firsthand that it needs attention. So he was receptive. Hopefully he takes it back to the right place and we can get some little small modification and improvement made to Highway 12 in that area. It's not like we're gonna expand to 4 lanes or anything, but that part, and I've driven it, rode on it for the last 50 years and it's worse than it's ever been in that section.
50 years?
Rode or drove?
Oh, okay. I thought you said drove, and if you drove for 50 years.
Oh, that was a listening test, Commissioner.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, got our attention. All right, Mr. Kelly.
Just a note, we did sign the letter of support here for South Haven, did have some contact late in the week from Frontier about another potential project they may have up in Clearwater. Now that the border to borders out there, I think we
Yeah.
may continue to get some requests, so just look
Good.
for those letters of support.
Good.
Certainly a number of initiatives going on the staff level on the centralization effort that we've been working on. Of course, right now, budget season is well upon us, and we are in process of working through the budget books as submitted to get them to you guys so we can start our meetings in August. So that is the focus right now.
All right. If there is nothing else to come before the board, we will adjourn at 10:23. Thanks, everybody.